So here we go. It's a Bretonia build versus the Wood Elves. Me playing as the Wood Elves. And it's going to be a bit of a kitey build with a ton of anti-archer capabilities. But it looks like the Bretonians, they actually have no archers this time around, strangely enough. In fact, they're just going for the Fey Enchantress. So I'm going to box up because there's no reason not to aside from the Fey Enchantress. And then just kite with these Glade Riders. The captains should be able to ward away the Fey Enchantress, and they're just going to be shooting at her at the very start of the game. My infantry will move up just in case there's any disputes about attacking rules. And yeah, it's just running away with these Glade Riders. They have Hagbane tips, so they're going to be slowing down these guys a lot. And Alfredino sort of has to engage. You can see the Fey Enchantress has already taken a little bit of missile damage. So if he doesn't engage, then I should be good to go. Pegasus Knights are catching up to my Glade Riders. Gonna turn off skirmish mode, that I can actually path them further away. As for the Fey Enchantress, we're gonna pull away some of our troops so that the Mortis engine doesn't get too much damage on us. The Glade Riders have already done a ton of damage to the forces of the Bretonians. They've actually hit the Knights up for quite a lot of damage so far. So I'm feeling okay here. Drycha's done fairly well. My spears haven't taken too much damage as they are, they do have charged defense against large. So yeah, despite the cycle charging, I shouldn't be taking too much heat here. The Fey Enchantress probably is the biggest threat. She will be pulling away, same with the Paladin. And I just need to make sure that the constant Mortis engine effects don't do too much damage. I have some pendulums too that I can throw down to hit the Knights if needed. And I see a pretty nice opportunity here. So let's go ahead and throw that down. And hopefully kill off a few Knights in the process. My Glade Riders are moving in to provide their poison. And as for Drycha here, she can throw down her summon here since there are a ton of Knights engaged. And hopefully I'm able to get a few easy picks here as they are sandwiched between some spears and my summon. That should actually work out fairly well. So my Glade Riders, they can cycle charge the infantry and get those guys to rout. And so far it's looking okay. Drycha and the Glade Captains are a bit surrounded though. I don't know how well this engagement is going to go. So we're going to keep a close eye on that to make sure everything goes well and dandy on that front. And as for all the routing Bretonian forces, it's important that I chase them off as per usual. So all the Knights here, they are deeply engaged. Seems like a nice time for an overcast pendulum. And it hits decently well. Gets in some damage, but the Fey Enchantress is still holding out pretty good. She has a lot of extra HP. And that could be a bit of a problem, as she is really good against infantry. Still though, Drycha, despite the nerfs, has very good combat stats, and she should be able to hold out fairly well, at least for a while. I've kept my Azrai spears as far away from the Fey Enchantress as I can too, and that has I think it spared them most of the Mortis engine effect. Yeah. So they haven't been taking too much damage from that at the very least, but it looks like my single entities are beginning to die now. I have hurt the Fey Enchantress quite a bit, but this could turn pretty badly once the Fey Enchantress actually gets engaged into this fight, as she will be able to pull apart a lot of these Azrai spears. So I'm going to prematurely pull them away. Just to avoid that Mortis engine. We definitely don't want to be taking that. But it looks like a little bit too late. She does manage to get in the fight. And immediately the balance of power starts tipping in the favor of Alfredino. Not the best case scenario. I'm going to keep pulling away the Azrai Spears as he pulls away to continue cycle charging. The Glade Riders have done really well here. But I don't know if it's gonna be enough. I can turn off skirmish mode at the very least and turn off fire at will for a couple of them. But just looking at this situation, it seems like the Bretonians, They are getting a lot of damage here, but the match is still fairly close. I have a Glade Captain alive too, and she can start picking away at the Fey Enchantress. And if I send in one unit of Azrai Spears at a time, that will help prevent most of the Mortis engine that'll be coming down. Not to mention I have my cavalry too to catch out these Knights of the Realm, and of course Drycha at fairly high HP will still be pretty threatening. So not all hope is lost. I have the Glade Riders at decent ammunition. They will be able to punish the Fey Enchantress a bit. And as for these Knights, a big Pendulum might be able to even catch out a few of them. Let's see how that goes. It's mostly infantry, so not the best Pendulum ever. But just looking at the situation, I do have quite a few troops here. A few Grail Knights might even get picked out by my Glade Riders also. It just depends. Will Drycha actually be able to survive? She's sort of stuck in the fight here. She doesn't have a ton of mobility. So I'm thinking she'll probably just get cycle charged to death. And all this cavalry is going to be quite the task to actually finish off here. In fact, my Glade Captain is going to be getting caught out herself. I'll see if a counter charge from my Glade Riders manage to save her, but she breaks almost immediately. And it seems like that's going to be it. The last remaining Pegasus Knights for the Bretonians are gonna be really hard to actually finish off here. These Grail Knights too, with their extremely high leadership. It's gonna be quite the task, and it seems like I just don't have enough ammunition to actually finish them off. It was pretty close though, and I will be using the rest of my ammo to try and pick off what I can. If I can actually get them to rout and surround the Fey Enchantress with Drycha, that could actually work pretty well in my favor. I do actually manage to rout off a unit of Knights of the Realm too, so perhaps it's not entirely lost. Pegasus Knights are on the verge of routing, and they do actually rout. The Grail Knights too are really low, and it seems like they'll be routing off too in just a second. So perhaps it's not over yet. Drycha though is really low, and I think the fact that these Grail Knights are basically refusing to die in this situation is pretty bad. Drycha does get killed off, and it looks like it's gonna be barely army losses here, just due to low ammunition. Still, let's turn on Fire at Will. Hopefully they'll be able to shoot at the Fey Enchantress and take her out. At least getting her pretty low on HP. I've chased off all the cavalry, but a little bit too late. It seems like just that ammo usage was a little bit too foolhardy. It came down to just these two single entities, but they're going to be more than enough for my Glade Riders. I think they're still getting healing. That looks like it's going to be it. Oh my goodness. GG. My Glade Captains actually did they could have done better for sure. Enchantress needs stronger Mortis. Yeah, in the end, just that one unit of Grail Knights that was impossible to catch out. I didn't have any mass to really kill them. Maybe I should have taken Zoids, but the Azrai Spears are still okay. These guys are more, they're better against things like Lewin. And in fact, if there was Lewin, my mass infantry strat would have worked out a lot better. Playing against the Fey Enchantress, I was sort of walking directly into a bad situation, but it still worked out okay. I think... Oh man, if I just had a little bit more ammunition, I actually would have won that. Oh man. Micro, I could have gone wider with these guys. I'm not sure. Alfredino took a lot of hits too from my Glade Riders, so that might have been a misplay. It might have been intentionally draining ammo. I'm not sure. But here we go. Next match up against Alfredino. Gonna be a rush build up against my Beastmen build with a ton of range units, so I'm a little bit worried about running into this much infantry. There's a lot of Dryads, there's a lot of cavalry, but I do have my archers at the ready to punish these wild riders. A ton of spear infantry too, so I'm not too worried. a Glade Lord with nets, presumably. And what's this? An AoE spell. Pendulum coming in onto my archers. They take some heat, but it's not the worst fight ever. In fact, what is pretty bad is that the cavalry has fully surrounded my unit of Centaur throwing axes. That's a really inefficient trade for me. And yeah, that's a free unit of Centaurs now gone. Dunzo. That's pretty bad. It's a pretty big loss, but it's nothing I can't recover from. I still have a few Ungor Raiders at the ready. I'll need to pull back to make sure I don't get cycle charged. And with the Chaos Spawn summon on top of these War Dancers, that's going to be a pretty nice help for me. Spirit Leeches too, on top of the very expensive Wild Hunters, will be helping me a ton. And with so much cavalry here, my Archer Fire should be able to punish this force pretty well. I've routed off the expensive War Dancers too, and as for all of these Dryads, I need to be cycle charging them as much as possible. Let's see here, my Chaos Spawn. Need to be engaging more War Dancers. And then my mobility needs to be pulling back before they get charged. I really need infantry to be tanking the charges for me. Otherwise, I'm going to be in for a pretty rough time. So using the Chaos Spawn will be very important for that. And just pulling away with my much more mobile cavalry should be able to help me out. Looks like I will be able to catch out these War Dancers too. That's very good. Let's see here. But the Dryads are going to be a little bit of work to actually finish off. There are a ton of them here that I'll need to kill. And that's going to be cycle charging for days to actually pull off. But Alfredino's being very careful with his cavalry. And they're able to ward off most of my charges. So I'll just have to continue pulling away from that. And instead, using my ranged advantage to win the fight here. The fact that his cavalry has sort of committed hard to shut down my archers could work out really well in my favor too, since I can actually pull in my forces now to catch out a good number of these Wild Riders. So that's pretty good for me. I do take a little bit of a counter charge, but I think in the end I come out slightly on top there. Not to mention I've also managed to charge some of the Dryads too, and get quite a few picks while securing my archers, who've been able to fire for the majority of the game. So that works out fairly well. Another big charge here from the Wood Elves does come in. I can pull back again to stay safe, and this game is just coming down to a big cavalry fight. Whoever can take a better engagement will come out on top. And taking a look over here on my left flank, it seems like I do take a pretty bad engagement. But another big fight here with my spears does buy me time for a pretty solid charge, and we'll see if that's enough to pull apart the Wood Elves. I think that's a Helm of Discord too on the Glade Lord. Pretty scary. Gets in quite a bit of damage and actually routs off most of my cav, which is really bad for me. And it seems like that might be the play that wins it out for Alfredino at this point. Let's see here. That's actually a lot of my mobility gone. And let's see, what can I actually do to recover? Some more Spirit Leeches, of course, should help out. But he does have an infantry advantage in these War Dancers. And unless I can get a really big pick here, it seems like that should be it. But a pick looks like it may be coming. I do charge, I do get a pretty nice charge on these forces. And we'll see if I'm actually able to kill them here. It looks like probably not, especially with the big heal coming in from the Dryad. And yeah, that's all my forces routed off. These Wild Riders actually trading out really well into my cavalry. And that's gonna be game for me. Essentially that came down to me taking some pretty bad charges, and Alfredino just out microing me there. I could feel that a lot of the time my Centaurs were taking heavy charges up against these Wild Riders. The values really show that, and I could have spent a lot more time kiting with these Centaurs. In fact, I think that's probably what I should have been doing. I had almost free reign on the skirmisher front, And I could have just kited back for a much longer time. Did the War Dancers do anything? They did okay. And this one unit actually paid for themselves quite a bit. And the Dryads managed to find some pretty good fights too. So, yeah. Yeah, in the end, I think I just misplayed. I was looking for a fight a bit too much, and I should have been retreating instead. So here we go. Next match up against Alfredino. Looks like he's going for an archer heavy build this time. A lot less on the infantry front and some Knights of the Realm. Begin the skirmish game. His hero is going to be the Fey Enchantress. So, unlike last game, I'm going to be a lot more careful here. I'm going to turn off fire at will so that I have a lot more ammunition going into the late game. And we'll see how that plays out. The Sisters of Thorn are going to be staying a little bit further back as their range is actually really short. And I'll slowly be moving up with my Wood Elf army and getting ready to throw down some pendulums to kill off these archers. I don't have a ton of tools to actually finish them off, but the hope is that my skirmish cavalry can do pretty well here. Some knights look like they're stuck in infantry a tiny bit, so an opportunity to get some shots in on them. They do manage to dodge though, and it looks like the fight is going to be starting in just a second. Let's grab all of my skirmishers, turn on fire at will, and since the cavalry is a bit out of position, I'm in a fairly good position to actually whoops, skirmish mode, there we go. Yeah, the cavalry's sort of out of position, so I can actually do fairly well at forcing them back into the archers while my front line kills off these Bretonnian peasants. Orion will be diving straight in towards a Fey Enchantress, and we'll see if a pendulum actually can kill off these archers now. Looks like gets in some pretty decent damage. A lot of the cavalry is occupied, and as long as my forces aren't taking too much damage from the archers, I think I should be trading out decently here. Horn of the Wild Hunt is now procced. I guess that's a bit of a waste. I'm not really charging anything here. So yeah, that's definitely a misplay, but still, these archers are about to get compromised. The knights can only defend them so well, and I'm moving in with my Wild Riders to try and shut them down, but it looks like that opportunity is going to be a little bit ruined, as the knights do manage to pull in, and they're doing a nice job actually keeping these archers safe. Another pendulum can go down though, and hopefully that kills off most of these archers, allowing me to actually win out in this blob fight, which Orion is doing decent in. My Sisters of Thorn have also gone caught out by a lot of the cavalry, which is not a great situation, because they would much rather instead be chasing down, be kiting the cavalry away and actually getting in their value. It seems like just the micro this game on my Wild Riders have really fallen apart a tiny bit. As for Orion, although he's doing okay up against Double Paladin, that could actually be pretty rough. Now, I really need to throw down my buffs too on the Wild Riders. Seems like that hasn't been going too well for them, as I did lose one of them almost entirely before I could throw down the buffs. So that's going to make things a little bit harder here. It seems like Alfredino's micro really coming through. Orion also still surrounded by the paladins, but holding his own fairly well. We'll see if he actually holds here, as the recent debuffs actually make him a lot easier to kill by paladins. And there we go. It seems like the Cloak of Isha not going to be able to pull through this time, and Orion is going to go down. GG. And that's going to be it. The yeah, that worked out really badly that time. The Sisters of Thorn felt terrible there. They sort of got caught. A lot of my cavalry got caught by these guys too. I'm wondering, I feel like the Glade Riders should outpace these Knights of the Realm, but that could have just been a miss micro. As for Orion, he did okay. I sort of like the idea of him. He did put a pretty good hurting on the Paladins and the Fey Enchantress, but in the future, I think I would cut these Sisters of Thorn and go for something like this instead. Maybe a lot more cavalry, some suicide glade riders to kill off the Bretonnian archers. And for my branch wraith, instead of Earthblood, maybe Awakening of the Wood. Feels a little bit better.